Hi there, it's Karen here, and I'm back working in my beautiful new art journal by Dylusions. And this page, I had the idea that I wanted to do a bit of a wintry scene. I've been thinking about what I might use, and I had found a few things in a magazine that gave me the idea. So I thought I'd start off just by painting the background with some white acrylic paint. It's the Dylusions white linen acrylic paint. And I'm just literally sweeping the brush across the double page, just adding a couple of little splashes of blue. I think that's the London blue, just to give the idea of a bit of a being sky. And it is a scene, but it's not really particularly realistic scene, as you'll see later on. So I started off painting the whole thing white, and then I've just taken out some pages from an old book, and I'm just tearing them roughly into hill-shaped shapes, if you like, just tearing them roughly so that I can just make an idea of hills and mountains across the page, which will become clear shortly when I put it together. So I am just doing it fairly roughly, just doing some diagonal shapes and things that look slightly hilly and fitting them together so that it creates this idea of a scene. A sort of mountain scene, I suppose. And you see, this is one of the pages that actually inspired me to this. This is in a magazine where they were selling Christmas trees. I think it was, I don't know what magazine it was. And there was this page of Christmas trees, and I thought they look really good, just as wintry trees. They don't have to be Christmas trees. They're not decorated, so they're just green trees. And I thought I'd really fancied creating this scene with all the trees dotted about on the page. So I started fussy cutting all of these trees from this magazine. I definitely wanted to do a collage page, so that was part of the idea. So cutting out all these trees, which I've now done, as you can see. And also had this napkin. It was our Christmas napkins, actually, or serviettes, and it had a gorgeous tree on it. So I thought, going to cut that tree out as well and make that also part of the page. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just cutting out this tree from the napkin. And it's a little bit more tricky. The napkins are not that easy to cut out because they're made of layers of very, very thin tissue. I tend to cut it first and then take the backing off the tissue afterwards so that it makes it easier. Also, in a variety of magazines I was going through, I found these animals which are, I suppose you could associate with winter. They don't necessarily would normally be found in a scene that I'm creating of mountains and trees. You wouldn't normally find polar bears and penguins amongst trees in a mountain, but that's what I'm going to do. So as you can see, it's a bit of a whimsical page, this, but it was really fun to create. So I'm just sticking on or laying out the pieces of paper that I've torn out just to get an idea of how my scene might look, taking the backing off that tree that was from a serviette, and just trying to pop in the trees around the page just to give myself an idea of how this is going to look. Because I had to be careful how I stick the paper on, as you'll see in a moment, to make sure I can still tuck all these trees in around the page and all the various creatures that I've cut out. So you can see there's polar bears and penguins. I mean, I don't think they're normally found even on the same part of the continent. Well, one's from Arctic and one's from the Antarctic. So this is decidedly a whimsical page. Excuse me. So I'm just going to start sticking down these pieces of paper that I cut out of or tore out of a book, but not completely stuck down. I'm just leaving the edges available to tuck things in. So I'm trying to be careful how I actually put the glue. This is just a matte gel medium that I'm using. So I'm just sticking it down around the edges to get it into the right places, but leaving myself plenty of spaces to tuck in trees and various animals in around the page, or into the spaces around the mountains, I suppose you could call them, or the hills, or whatever it is you want to see. As you see, it's all coming together. It looks a slightly hilly scene. And I'm just catching some of the glue, but just leaving a lot of the edges open so I can start tucking things in, which I'm starting to do here, deciding where I want everything to go. now that those are not moving, because it's quite hard to work it out when those bits of paper just keep moving around the page. So I thought just tack them down just gently so that I can see how things are going to fit around the page. And all my various trees that I've cut out. Most of the trees are green. You'll find there is a gold one, but I didn't care. It's all good. It's all trees, and they look fairly wintry. But if there's a gold one, well, this is enough of a whimsical scene that it doesn't really matter if one of the trees isn't particularly realistic looking. So I'm just popping that one down up there. I'm just starting to stick those in now. I just thought I'd start with one side rather than trying to remember where everything should go and have to start at scratch. I thought I'd just start on this one side, get these stuck down, and then I'll start working on the other page and the opposite page. So I've got my polar bears in, mummy and baby. So as I say, they're not the sort of thing you'd normally find and see in amongst trees and hills, but I really like them there. I think they look quite cute tucked in there. I was aiming for whimsical rather than too cutesy. I hope I haven't gone overly cutesy with this. I was thinking more of a whimsical scene rather than overly cute. But I can appreciate there is a bit of cuteness about some of these creatures. So I'm just gently sticking down that tree from the serviette, because you have to be really careful with that tissuey paper. It's so delicate, it'd be very easy to tear it. And there's a little Arctic fox, I think that's what he is anyway, I'm just tucking in down there. Can't be completely sure that's what he is, but I think he is. I rather like him. Just hiding down there. And there's my gold tree. And I'm putting my penguins on. I quite like the giant penguins at the top of the mountain there. I think they're rather fun. Penguins and their little chick lurking at the top of the mountain, looming over everybody else. And there's a nice white, again, not particularly realistic looking white tree, but I really like it there anyway. So popping things into the spaces and then trying to stick the edges of the paper down to make sure it all stays in place. So gradually building up my scene here with all the trees. This was such fun to make. I really enjoyed that. And also I cut out a couple of little rabbits again from the serviette. There are a couple of little rabbits on the serviette. So I've put those on as well, just dotted them about. And the final thing from the same serviette, it was really quite a useful serviette, was this beautiful lamp. And I thought that looks really nice. I really like that. My husband reckons it reminds him of Narnia with the lamp on it. Looks like you've gone through the wardrobe and you found yourself in Narnia, which I suppose is as whimsical as it gets. So I'll put the lamp up there. I quite like that there, and that top of the hill, looking down over the scene and illuminating it. Well, in my head anyway. So just gently sticking that down, because like with everything else, you have to be very gentle with the tissue. And now I'm just adding a bit of white gesso, really just to bind all the areas together, to give it to fade out some of the writing, but also to make the whole thing a sort of bit more unified, soften all the edges, make it all a bit more wintry looking as well, give it a bit more of a white look. And then I found another tree. I think I moved the book and I found there was another tree lurking underneath. So I thought, right, that's got to go on. There's a nice space for that. I can fit that on too. So there it is. Just going there. It was a really nice big tree, and it must have slid under the book while I was sticking everything down. So that couldn't be left out. There it is. And now I've got it says what they call them, snowflake stencil, which I'm going to do some sparkle in the sky. So I've got just some ordinary Ranger texture paste. So I'm just going to put on some texture paste through the snowflake stencil. And then before I take the stencil off, as you'll see in a moment, while it's all still tacky, I'm going to sprinkle some very fine clear glitter so that it just picks up and just gives a little sparkle in the sky. And I've done the same on the other side. For some reason I didn't manage to record myself doing the other side of the other page. And then I've got this. It's by Art Alchemy, and it's an acrylic paint, but it's a metallic acrylic paint called Sparks, and the colour is Mermaid Sparkle. So it's a sort of minty colour with a sheen to it. It's really pretty, and because it's an acrylic paint, it's water soluble. So I've used my water brush to actually dab it on, and then just making it a bit watery so that it just runs down a little bit and just gives a nice soft edge to the page. But it just runs down, and it'll go in a moment. It's going to just run down. I'll just keep squeezing my water brush with the colour on it, so it's quite a soft colour, but it just gives a little bit of definition to those snowflakes that I've put on with the stencil. And I'm just going to go across both pages, just dipping it into my pot and then watering it a little bit as I squeeze the brush so that it just comes out, and then adding a little bit more water as well with the spray so that it just trickles through the stenciled snowflakes, and it just catches them. I didn't want it to be too dark. I just wanted to give it this little sparkly sort of background in the sky, and the same on the other side. I just wanted it to be, just keep lifting my book there just to make it run down a little bit and dabbing it, so it's not a really strong colour. I just wanted it to be just a little sparkle, and then give a little colour to the snowflakes to make them a bit more visible, but not make them really stand out, because it's meant to be a bit of sky, so it's not, I didn't really want a big blob of dark colour. I just wanted a little soft sparkly minty colour is what I was aiming for. It's really pretty, this Mermaid Sparkle. I should definitely be using it again. And this one is also metallic paint from Art Alchemy, and and this one's called Dark Forest. So not unsurprisingly, it's a dark green, but it also has a bit of shine, a bit of sparkle in it. These metallic paints are beautiful. I've got one or two of these now, and I'm just running around the edges of my shapes that I've created with the paper, just to give them a bit of definition, so you can see that the idea of the hills developing with the aid of this acrylic sparkly paint, and just spraying, so makes the green a bit softer, and just gives a soft edge to each of the hilly shapes. And again, using the water brush, so that they comes out. The paint is quite soft as it comes out, and it's not too hard an edge. So now I decided that I would use a stencil for some of it as well. This is a stencil that's a grassy shape, and I'm using the same paint with a sponge, and I'm just dabbing it through this grassy stencil. It's come out a little bit blobby, but it doesn't matter. It's the effect I was looking for, to get a little bit of grass along the edge. It's actually quite difficult to get it off the stencil. It was quite difficult to get off the paint. I left it a bit too long before I washed it off, but it was quite effective, I thought. And now I'm using, these are called glass beads, and it's just tiny beads that are in some glue. So you can put it through a stencil, which I've done many times before, or on this occasion I'm just using my spatula to make a bit of texture along the edge, or along each of the edges, running it along, so that when it dries, it'll just be a little bit of shiny texture. They're like little tiny clear glass balls, or beads really. So at the moment it just looks like white and a bit blobby, but that dries clear, and it just leaves that bit of texture. So I'm just putting a bit around this tree where it's a bit snowy. Oh, excuse me, got a tickle. So I'm just dabbing the glass beads just around everywhere with my spatula, not in any particular formation. I'm just wanted to give a bit more texture to the page. You have to be a bit careful when you're working in an art journal that you don't overdo the texture. And most of this is pretty flat, but I thought this wouldn't be too much texture. Just gives that little bit of rough edging, so that it looks a bit snowy, and a bit of snow along the edge up there, and a bit more green I'm going to add as well, mixing it in with the glass beads. So all of that, the paint and the glass beads all sort of mixing together. Oh, and there goes a bit more sparkle. While it's all wet, I'm using a bit more of the glitter just to dab it around and give it a bit of a sparkle. Just starting to add a little bit more of the green, but in a much softer way, much more watery, to give the actual landscape a bit more of a green look. So I'm just going to dab it around. I had a little stamp with a little rabbit stamp, so I'm putting a couple of little rabbits, a couple more rabbits. I thought, oh, I'll stamp a couple of rabbits around as well. Why not? And here I'm adding a little bit more of the green, but really, really watery, just to kind of take off the whiteness just give it some of the landscape a bit of a green look. It's really, really watered down. Now I'm going to be doing my title. I've been trying to decide on the title for some time, and I knew I wanted the word winter in it. I kept looking on Pinterest, and I kept trying to get ideas of what to do. And then a friend of mine just said, what about Winter Wonderland? And I thought, yeah, that works. So that's what I've gone with. So they're just little white foam letters, and I wanted to give them a bit of sparkle. So I'm using a glue pen, going over each letter with the glue pen, and then sprinkling over some more of the very fine clear glitter. So the letters, it's probably not terribly easy to see, but each of those letters end up having a really fine layer of glitter on. Just finishing off here, putting on the last bit of glitter. So now they're ready to go on, and the black letters are by Pinkfresh Studio from the Dream On collection, and I really like the font of these. I would have liked a bigger W to make it more of a capital, but this was how it came, so I thought, well, I'll stick with it. And I decided that as it's going on to a painted background, I would actually stick them on with my tacky glue to make sure they stayed there. Although I didn't do that with the foam letters. They tend to have better sticky, the foam letters, than the puffy letters, so I didn't worry about glue with those. And now I had I've got a couple of little packs of these white plastic snowflakes, and I thought it needs a few snowflakes around the page, so I'm just sticking a few of those all around the place to add that snowy look to the page. And I quite like those. I had silver ones as well, but I thought white would look better. It's not quite so in your face. It's just a little bit more subtle, I suppose. And there was a bit of the washi sheet I had there, and this one said "Let It Snow." So I thought, well, there was a bit of a gap there on that page, so I thought I needed something on that page. So I've put that bit of washi on there, and now I've got some sequins, also fairly. Not too bright a colour. There's some clear sequins. There's a mixture of completely clear sequins and some that are more like little snowflakes. And I'm dotting them around as well. They're little tiny ones. This is all about giving the sky a sparkly look. I really wanted it to look like a Winter Wonderland. Once I'd fixed on that title, I think I went for it on the sparkle front. So it's very nearly done. So this was really fun to make, this page. I really enjoyed it. It was an idea I had, and it's gone in better than I could have hoped, in my own opinion, obviously. It's been really fun to do, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And please, if you did like it, please subscribe and give this page a like. Thanks very much. Goodbye for now.